The scene exploded onto a garishly bright, over-the-top game show set, a blend of prehistoric jungle and Las Vegas kitsch. Flaming torches lined a runway of polished obsidian. In the middle of it all, perched on a tall rock, was Kip, a tiny, hyperactive Compsognathus sporting a sequined vest. He tapped a primitive microphone made from a hollowed-out horn, talking a mile a minute. He welcomed Pangea back to Cretaceous Connections, the only dating show where the stakes were higher than a Brachiosaurus's breakfast. He promised a killer finale, announcing that the show's bachelor had clawed his way to the top. Kip hailed him as a carnivore with charisma, a titan of teeth. A Tyrannosaurus Rex named Rex. Rex, a T-Rex doing his absolute best to look suave, was leaning against a giant prop fern. He tried to strike a cool pose, but being too top-heavy, he wobbled, overcorrected, and stumbled forward. He tripped over his own gigantic feet, careening onto the stage and skidding to a stop. He slammed right into Kip's rock, knocking it sideways. The horn microphone teetered, then fell, bonking Rex right on the snout with a loud thunk. Rex shook his head, dazed, a goofy grin plastered on his face. The studio audience, a menagerie of dinosaurs, hooted and roared with laughter. Without missing a beat, Kip exclaimed what an entrance it was, joking that Rex was literally falling for the Bachelorette. And who could blame him? She was, in Kip's words, a vision from the vegetated valleys, a herbivore with heart, the one and only Shaunie. A curtain of giant leaves parted. There, bathed in a soft, ethereal glow, stood Shaunie, a Shantungosaurus of incredible grace and size. She was easily twice Rex's weight, and her hide shimmered with a gentle, pearlescent sheen. She gave a slow, demure blink of her huge, doe-like eyes. When Rex saw her, his whole world stopped. A cartoonishly large heart literally thumped out of his chest, hung in the air for a second, and snapped back in. He was toast. He took a step toward her, a dreamy look on his face. This was it, the dinosaur of his dreams. And then his stomach let out a deafening, guttural rumble. It was a low, predatory growl that vibrated through the entire studio floor. Rex froze, his pupils dilated. A single embarrassing string of drool dropped from the corner of his mouth. He quickly snapped it back up, a look of pure horror on his face. He wanted to win her heart, but his stomach wanted to win dinner. Section 1. The first test. A picnic of peril. Kip beamed, addressing the two love lizards. For their first test on the road to romance, they would be preparing a picnic for each other. The goal was to show care, thoughtfulness, and the ability to share a meal without incident. Their 10 minutes started immediately. A patch of the floor transformed into a meadow, complete with a checkered blanket, a basket, and piles of ferns, flowers, and fruit. Shaunie moved with a delicate grace, her huge claws surprisingly nimble as she started arranging a beautiful bouquet of jungle flowers. Rex, however, was having a full-blown crisis. He stared at a pile of lush, green ferns. His brain told him to arrange them nicely for the pretty lady. His stomach screamed, "Garnish!" He picked up a fern, meaning to place it on a plate, but he could not stop himself from sniffing it. His eyes glazed over as he imagined it next to a perfectly roasted. He shook his head violently, trying to snap out of it. He saw Shaunie arranging a fan of sliced megamelons. She looked over and gave him an encouraging smile. Rex panicked. He had to do something romantic and fast. He grabbed the biggest, most beautiful hibiscus flower he could find. He would present it to her, a perfect, classic gesture. He lumbered toward her, holding the flower delicately in his massive jaws. He was so focused on not crushing the petals that he did not notice his own instincts kicking in. As he got closer, his jaw muscles started to twitch. He leaned in to offer the flower, but just inches from her face, his jaws acted on their own. Snap. They slammed shut with the force of a falling boulder, the sound echoing through the studio. He had missed her completely, but the shockwave of air rustled her head crest. Rex froze, mortified. He had blown it. He just tried to bite his date on national television. But Shaunie did not scream. She just blinked. A soft blush appeared on her cheeks, and she let out a gentle, melodic coo. She had seen his clumsy approach, his intense focus, and the final, awkward snap. She did not see a predator. She saw a nervous, goofy guy trying to steal a kiss and comically missing. To her, it was the most adorable thing she had ever seen. She gently took the now mangled flower from his snout with her beak. Kip wiped a tear from his eye, exclaiming that it was an incredible, if slightly toothy, romantic advance from Rex, and Shaunie accepted. The points were pouring in. Rex just stood there, completely baffled, as Shaunie happily munched on her melon slices. He had somehow succeeded through spectacular failure. Section 2, the second test, Prehistoric Portraiture. Shouting over the cheers, Kip announced that it was time for round 2, the test of artistic expression. The dinos would now paint a portrait of their partner on lovely rock slabs, tasked with showing their soul and capturing their essence in 5 minutes. 2 enormous flat rock slabs were wheeled out, along with buckets of mud, berry juice, and charcoal sticks. Shaunie picked up a broad leaf for a brush and started painting with serene focus. Rex felt a little surge of confidence. He could do this. He was not just a stomach on legs. He was a dinosaur of culture. He picked up a charcoal stick and started sketching Shaunie's outline. He captured the elegant curve of her back, the gentle slope of her neck, the kindness in her eye. It was actually pretty good. He felt a swell of pride. He was showing her his sensitive side. He dipped a smaller rock into the red berry juice to add a little color to her cheeks. As he dabbed it on the portrait, the sweet smell hit his nostrils. His mind started to drift. Red? Like fresh meat. He looked at the elegant curve of Shaunie's back on his painting, and suddenly his artistic brain was hijacked by his culinary brain. That elegant curve of her back became the line separating the loin from the ribs. The gentle slope of her neck became the perfect spot for a prime neck roast. Before he even knew what he was doing, his charcoal stick was no longer sketching a portrait. It was drawing dotted lines. He labeled the sections in messy scrawls: tender thighs, juicy tail end, ribs, BBQ, or smoked. In his love-struck, hunger-fueled trance, he had created a butcher's diagram of his date. He snapped back to reality when he heard Kip's voice announce that time was up. Rex looked at his rock slab in abject horror. It was a carnivorous confession, painted for the entire world to see. Shaunie was looking over, her own beautiful, abstract portrait of him finished, and her expression curious. He had seconds. In a fit of pure panic, Rex grabbed the bucket of mud and flung it at the rock. He started smearing it wildly with his claws, growling and swiping, erasing the evidence in the most chaotic way imaginable. He stepped back, panting, covered in mud. The rock slab was a furious, chaotic mess of brown and red smudges over black lines. He had failed, miserably. Kip and Shaunie walked over. Rex braced for the humiliation. Kip, taken aback, asked Rex to explain his piece. Rex stammered that it was abstract. It represented the passionate, chaotic energy of his feelings for her, the untamed storm of his love. Shaunie gazed at the muddy, smeared canvas. Her eyes widened, not with fear, but with artistic appreciation. She saw the bold strokes, the raw power, the deep, dark colors mixed with vibrant red. She saw a soul laid bare, a storm of emotion that she found incredibly moving. She let out a deep, resonant hum of approval. "It's so passionate," she said softly, "so full of raw feeling." Kip found it unbelievable. Rex's avant-garde approach had captured Shaunie's heart. He was not just a snack seeker. He was a sensitive artist. The judges were loving it. Rex just stared, dumbfounded once again. He was the most successful failure in the history of the Cretaceous period. Was this not the greatest love story ever told? Would Rex's heart finally conquer his stomach? The audience was encouraged to share in the comments who they were rooting for and to stomp on the subscribe button for more Cretaceous Connections. Section 3. The final test, a serenade of stomachs. And now, it was the moment of truth. For the final challenge, the serenade, Rex had to woo Shaunie with the power of song. He had to prove that his roars could be for romance, not just for ordering a meal. A tiny, comically small ukulele was lowered from the ceiling. Rex carefully picked it up, his huge claws looking absurd as they tried to press the frets. This was it. His last chance to prove he was more than a predator. He had practiced. He had rehearsed. He cleared his throat. He strummed a gentle, if clumsy, chord. He opened his mouth and began to sing. A soft, surprisingly sweet melody came out, a little tune about her eyes shining like twin suns. Shaunie looked absolutely enchanted. The audience swayed. He was doing it. He went for the high note in the chorus, a soaring declaration of his love. But as he drew in a massive breath, his empty stomach chose that exact moment to betray him. A low, rumbling growl started deep in his gut, growing louder and louder until it completely overtook his singing. His sweet melody morphed into a deep, vibrating, earth-shaking growl well. The sheer force of it snapped the ukulele strings and sent a tremor through the stage. Silence. Rex's eyes were wide with terror. He just serenaded the love of his life with the sound of his digestive system, demanding she become lunch. This was the final, unforgivable mistake. But then, something amazing happened. Shaunie did not run. Instead, she leaned forward, her expression one of deep connection. As a massive hadrosaur, her species communicated through deep, low-frequency rumbles. She had not heard a hungry stomach. She heard him speaking her language. She heard a powerful, gut-deep, resonant call that to her translated as the most sincere declaration of love she had ever heard. She answered with a low, melodic rumble of her own. A wave of understanding passed between them. Kip admitted he did not know what just happened, but it was beautiful. A song straight from the gut, literally. The two were communicating on a whole other level. Conclusion: the leap of faith and the feast. It had all come down to this. The final choice. But first, there was a surprise test of devotion. Could the bachelor protect his beauty? Suddenly, klaxons blared and red lights flashed. From the wings, 3 poorly made, animatronic raptors on wheels squeaked onto the stage, their metal claws clicking as they lurched toward Shaunie. Rex was just supposed to do a mock heroic shove and push them away. But seeing Shaunie as Shaunie even playfully threatened, flipped the switch. It was not about the show anymore. A genuine protective rage boiled up inside him. With a roar that was 100% real, he charged. He did not just push the animatronics aside. He utterly demolished them. He tail-whipped one into the lighting rig, sending sparks everywhere. He stomped another into a flat, metallic pancake. He grabbed the last one in his jaws, shook it like a chew toy, and flung its twitching remains into the audience, who roared with approval. He stood panting over the wreckage, a true protector. He turned to Shaunie, his chest heaving. She looked at him with pure adoration. He was her hero. He took a step toward her, exhausted but triumphant. And then it came. One last, monumental, agonizingly loud rumble from his stomach. This was the real final test. He looked at her perfect, beautiful, and his stomach insisted deliciously plump form. The internal battle was written all over his face. Love versus lunch. He closed his eyes, let out a huge, world-weary sigh, and then he patted his stomach firmly, as if to say, not now, or ever. He had made his choice. He reached into a crack in a prop rock and pulled out the slightly squashed, mud-stained hibiscus from their first date, which he had saved. He offered it to her. Shaunie gently took the flower and nuzzled his snout. Kip, wiping away real tears, announced that they had done it. They had made a Cretaceous connection. Rex and Shaunie were the winners. Confetti made of shredded leaves rained down. Rex and Shaunie walked off the stage, talon in hand. As they walked, Rex's stomach let out one last, quiet, defeated gurgle. He glanced at her nervously. Shaunie stopped, looked at him, and then at the giant bouquet of prize-winning ferns she was holding. She plucked a large, tasty-looking fern and offered it to him. Rex looked at the fern, then at her. A slow grin spread across his face. He took a bite. It was not what he was craving, but he was learning that sharing a meal with her was more satisfying than any feast he could have imagined.